Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome. Today's topic is on war. I am currently waiting on my co-host, Ted Brown. He's coming in today on Campaign Update. Of course, we have a Chase Oliver update. Oh my God, comments already? Sixerus is here. Sixerus is already in the comments. I'm waiting on Ted Brown to come down. We're going to discuss war. Our guest today is Lana Lagia. Oh God, I hope I said that right. I told her I wouldn't mess it up, and I probably did. And we're gonna have our man Andrew Horning on, Libertarian nominee for Senate. So we have a House candidate in Lana. She's New Jersey District 7, and we have Indiana Senate nominee Andrew Horning, and Ted Brown should be here, and he's the U.S. Senate nominee for Texas. So us together, we should be able to have a good talk on war. And as far as Miss Feena, she is down in Miami this week at the world's largest food and beverage convention with one of the sponsors who makes Blood of Tyrant and Liquid. Blood of Tyrants is the wine. I'm going to go ahead and play their commercial real quick. And I think Liquid Freedom is the other one. I'm going to play Blood of Tyrants, though, because Lana is most definitely not a vampire, and, you know, blood seems to be a theme. You know, I'm going to go ahead and add Lana to the stage because Ted's not here yet and she can play co-host for the day. I don't mind working off of her. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine. And by the way, you did say my name correctly. So
oh my God.
Good job.
That's awesome. With Libertarian nominees, I always think about, and again, I'm playing with the Bible and stuff. So my Bible verse this time is, the stone that the builder refused hath become the headstone of the corner. That's what would happen if they decided to vote in libertarians. I got to tell you, I'm feeling kind of down. I've been campaigning all week. I went out to God, where was it? It was up north of here. It wasn't Frederick, but I was in Anne Arundel County, and I was at a fair. It was a little community center. It was a little, just event where you could meet constituents. And I had so many people looking at me and telling me that they love what I say, but they are wed to voting Democrat. And it's very disappointing because, the height of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. So,
every election they instill fear in people and say this is the most important election of your lifetime. If you don't vote for one of the establishment, the whole world will come crashing down. When the reality is if you start voting differently, something different will happen. And so I feel your pain. Like I listen to people, they say, I really like you, I trust you, I like your platform, I like libertarians, I like what, the pro peace, pro liberty, all these things, but there's always a but, right? But I'm afraid that if I don't vote for one of them, Trump will win, or if I don't vote for one of them, Kamala will win. And it's the same story every election.
Or even the famous "you can't win." One of my friends I was talking to yesterday, and he's like, they're just, I would shoot him. He was talking about the Orange Dawn. And he said that Harris was evil and he couldn't stand Donald Trump either, but he was going to, swallow hard and take it. And then afterwards, since Trump re-signed the Patriot Act, he'd staple the Constitution to his forehead and get rid of him. And I'm like, then why have him in? He didn't do a great job the first time. And I'm playing Meme-tastic today. Oh, that's not the Meme-tastic. I was on my desktop. And I was looking at that. They're never mad that they lie. They're never mad that whatever these people promise you, they never come through with. And
people aren't stupid. They know that they're not going to get anything that they're they're preaching to you. And I've had people say that to me, that like, you can't get any of this done. You won't be able to do anything. I'm like, well, these other people don't either. They say whatever they have to get in, and then they bend the knee to whatever special interest group gives them power or money or whatever the case is for them.
I think you said it slightly wrong. I honestly think they don't even try when they get in. I think that they promise whatever they can, and the reason I don't think they try is because power lies in the struggle. The reason why they can go, oh my God, we have to vote for Harrison Orange, the Orange Don, is because of Roe versus Wade, or the reason we have to vote for Trump and Orange, by the way, which is Harris, is because civil rights and democracy. And when I ask them silly questions like, "Oh, Harris is pro-democracy, huh? How many primaries did she get voted in? How many votes?" And they get mad at me. Or,
Mm-hmm.
Trump doesn't deserve the job from last time. He raised the debt $6 trillion and came up with a whole new military branch. What the hell are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
How's your campaign going though? You said you were in District 7, which is a battleground district. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So, District 7 is, just so you can get an idea of geographically where it is in New Jersey, because I know nobody cares about New Jersey, right? I know all the states kind of blend together up here. But it's northwest on the border of Pennsylvania, but not quite when you reach the border of New York, because that top part of New Jersey is actually District 5. And District 7 is a battleground state. It's technically, district. It's in danger of flipping to the Democrats. And Kane and Altman are the main players here. There is a Green candidate, and of course, me. Kane is definitely a member of the establishment. His father was governor of New Jersey. He also has a great grandfather who I believe was a 9-term congressman. He has a brother who was once a congressman. So he's part of the establishment, and he definitely says whatever he needs to say to get that vote. About 6 months out from the election, he started getting federal money and handing it to extremely wealthy townships. Three guesses as to why he was doing that, right? So he's bribing people to vote for him because people are very unhappy with what he's been doing, which is basically nothing. Um, and he is a rhino, so the Republicans don't even like him. You know, one example of him lying is he said that he would secure abortion rights, and he didn't. He did the complete opposite almost immediately into getting to Congress. And now he's endorsed Trump. He's gone full MAGA, right? Sue Altman is basically the complete opposite of that. She's a progressive. She wants Medicare for all. She's a former leader of the Working Families Alliance or something like that. And she's, I would say, a little overly obsessed with reproduction rights, probably because she's trying to, leverage that hot topic. But both of them are very pro-war, trying to stay on topic here. Altman actually recently got endorsed by, oh my God, my notes here, Democratic majority of Israel, and she has stated that in Congress, I will be a firm supporter of Israel, and she's been a firm supporter of Israel's right to exist, just kind of unflinching support, blank checks sort of thing. And Kane is the same. I've looked into his co-sponsoring and bills that he's introduced, and they're all very, very pro-Israel. Um, Not that you can't personally support Israel or Israelis, but I'm a non-interventionalist, right? And I don't think the United States should be involved in any conflict overseas, shouldn't be sending any money at all. So back to the district, it is in danger of flipping. And what I'm hoping is, if it flips blue along with a handful of other districts nationwide, it could turn Congress blue, obviously. So it is an interesting district to watch. And what I'm hoping is, here's me, right? Now, I would love to say that I'm like the moderate between the two of them, but I'm not. I'm a radical advocate for liberty, right? So while I might overlook,
I love the way you said that. I'm a radical advocate for liberty. That sounds great. Oh, keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go.
no, so I'm hoping that people will look at Kane and see his history and his family and the fact that he's a liar and he bribes people, and he rarely even is in the district. Like he doesn't do interviews, he doesn't do debates. I remember watching a debate, when he was running last time, and he doesn't really answer questions. He dodges them. He kind of just redirects you to almost saying nothing. And so I'm hoping they'll look at him and say, no, that guy already had a chance. He did nothing. He just kept the establishment going. And they'll look at Altman and say, she's a progressive. She's going to keep power in the federal government and keep sending money towards social programs and keeping these wars going. And then they'll probably look at the Green candidate and say, oh, well, I like a few of his positions, but he's a socialist, which Greens are socialists. And then they'll see me and say, she's something new. She's someone who's advocating for less government, more liberty, peace, and keeping more of your money, and hopefully choose something different this time.
So you don't really feel that you have a lot of, and this is a libertarian thing. Again, libertarians generally get 3 to 12% of the vote, irrespective of how much we spend on things, because they spend millions and billions training you to either vote red or blue, or make you think your vote doesn't count. How is it in Jersey? I mean, you said you were a radical liberty, a radical, what was it, advocate for liberty?
Yeah, radical advocate for liberty. So Jersey is a blue state. I think that's fairly obvious. But my district, particularly, there's a few counties. So New Jersey used to be farmland, right? It used to be farmers way back when, and New Yorkers started coming in, other people started coming in, changing regulation and kind of changing the culture. So my district encompasses most of Sussex and Warren County, which are still really rural, and rural people lean independent or libertarian. So if any libertarian were to get elected in New Jersey, my district, or even District 5, which also encompasses these rural areas, are going to have the best chance. On top of it already being a district that is unhappy with their representation and wanting something new, I do have probably the best chance I'm going to get in Jersey. But yes, the reality is that libertarians don't get very far. And the hope is that just over time, we make our positions known. We say, hey, we're always here. We're always the option. We're always going to be on the ballot, waiting for you to finally try something new. Warren County specifically is kind of like a purple county, and Altman is really working hard to flip that county. But a lot of them are still going to probably vote Republican. Even though I've talked to a lot of them, I see what they say and the things that they complain about and things that they want to change. And I would say that they lean libertarian, right? But they're scared. They're scared if they don't vote red, blue's going to win, as always, right?
Well, I really think it'll be different this time, because I think we're in a unique position. When you have warmonger Dick Cheney backing Harris, and you've got all the big corporations backing Harris, who's supposed to be, pro-civil rights and stuff, people are starting to get the gist. I mean, you got Kennedy on Trump's team. People, I think, are starting to get the gist that they're not on our side. And one of the reasons for this, one of the reasons I wanted to do the campaign update with Feena and get all this together, is we're highlighting candidates who are not fringe, who are not freaks. Yes, we have fringes and freaks in the parties, and I love them. I would not get rid of them for the world, because I'm all about freedom and they're good in a party. But we have nominees that are capable of doing the job, that are intelligent, that have positions and reasons behind their positions. And that's something the other guys don't have. And with this format, we can all come together, get to know each other, share information, share knowledge, and promote together. Like, one of the things I'm doing is trying to get all of us to come in and run as a block. Because again, one Senate nominee, one congresswoman can't change everything. Ron Paul proved that. All you can do is staunch the tide a little bit, you can slow it down. But together as a block, we can come in and just do damage, and we can fix what ails America. And you were saying radical advocate for liberty, and I really truly believe that what you mean, and I haven't asked you about this yet, is that you are more conservative fiscally than the most fiscally conservative Republican because you want to shrink government. And you're more liberal, not because you don't care what people do, but because you don't believe in using government to mess with it. So you don't care if they're black, white, LGBTQ, LBGTQ plus. It's a word, LGBTQ. Hashtag LGBTQ. So you don't care who they are. You just want them to feel free to be free as long as they do no harm.
Absolutely. I try not to use terms like fiscally conservative, socially liberal, because then libertarians get caught in this trap of trying to get us to fit into the binary of left and right, and we're not, right? We're completely separate. We have our own ideology, our own party, and our own goals. But yes, I mean, I don't want, I don't want income tax to exist. And if it does exist, I don't want it to be spent on anything except for things going on here. I may have judgments about people's lifestyles or the choices that they make, but they're not my choices to make, right?
Personal judgments. That's okay. You're allowed to have those.
Yeah. And, as far as like in what you were saying in the beginning, a perfect example of them just not being on our side is Kamala and Trump basically saying the same thing, but in different ways or different shades. And I feel like no one, except for maybe us libertarians, are noticing it, that they're literally saying the exact same thing. They want the same things.
I literally pointed out when guys are like, you're a liar. I post a video of them saying it and they're like, oh. And I try to explain to folks. That's why I call Madam Vice President Trump and Brown, and I call Trump Harris and Orange, because their policies are the same. The only thing they seem to disagree with is what they who they want to give your money to. Now, hold on a second. I actually have to switch it back out because we got Ted on. So we're going to send you to the background and we're going to go back to the original format. I'm going to cut to a commercial real quick and we're going to make the magic happen. I'm going to play Liquid Freedom Red this time because I already played Blood of Tyrants. So stand by one.
Attention, Florida.
We believe in maximum freedom and limited government.
There will be multiple libertarians on your ballot this November, so take a chance on something different. I'm Feena Benoan, and I approve this message.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lana LaGuia turned into U.S. Senate nominee Ted Brown. How are you doing today, Ted? We must have had a hubbub come up. How you doing?
Well, good, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm blessed and highly favored. We're good.
Yes, I thought I was waiting backstage, but I apparently wasn't.
I didn't see you. I was trying to get you, and I didn't have you on Twitter, so I brought Lana on. Semper Gumby. We flex and we figure it out.
Oh, exactly. Well, anyway, yeah, it's good to be back, and certainly a lot's going on in the campaign. I was listening a little to what Lana was saying, but I missed some of the earliest parts of the show. But my campaign is, in fact, we did some videos, campaign videos that we want to run as ads on like Google Ads and such, and one longer one on TikTok to say that I'm the only candidate that doesn't want to ban TikTok out of the three candidates. But I uploaded those. I'm not sure if you have those available to running during the show.
Let me see one. They should be towards the bottom. I do not see them. Where'd you put them? Or what's the name of it?
The link that Feena had on the email. I clicked in there and I was able to get into the folder, and I just uploaded them in there yesterday.
You know what? She's the queen of the scene, and since she's in the background, maybe she can find it, because I'm looking through and I can't do it on the fly. I'm not as good as she is at this program.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a shame.
Right.
I was hoping.
But we'll try and get them up, and we'll definitely play them throughout the campaign season for the next few weeks, because it's really important to get the message out.
Yeah.
I kind of flubbed. I was at a campaign event and I was flubbing through the words, and I was trying to get through it because I was so flustered dealing with the majority Democrats out here. Are you having issues? Who do you find out there sympathizes with your position more, or is it everyone?
Well, that's the thing. It's obviously a lot of people agree with libertarians on at least one thing, and a lot of people disagree with libertarians on even more things, but at least on one thing. One of the problems with even some of our own people are, if they disagree with you on one thing, they say, I'm not going to support that guy, but they don't agree with anybody else anymore. Like, for example, if you probably most libertarians would probably agree with Ted Cruz about half the time, and they probably would agree with the Democrat Colin Allred about half the time. But that's a big half that you don't agree with the person on, and that's why you need an alternative, someone that believes in freedom across the board, because those guys don't believe in anything across the board except increasing the size of government, just in different ways, and sometimes the same way, like in banning TikTok, for example. I was bringing that one up because it was actually in court yesterday in the U.S. Court of the District of Columbia, where the lawyers were arguing that the TikTok ban should not be implemented. And so it's very timely in that only libertarians don't want to impose this restriction on free speech to all half the population that uses TikTok, for example. So that's a major point of disagreement with these candidates. But one interesting point is I've heard from a few voters who really appreciate that I'm the only candidate also that doesn't want to just back Israel murdering Palestinian children. So that's a major issue as well. The Israel-Gaza war, where while Israel has the right to self-defense, and I think Lana was talking about that a little while ago, while Israel has the right to self-defense, they don't have the right to over-the-top, out-of-proportion self-defense, where they're killing thousands and thousands of innocent people, causing millions to be homeless, causing famine and all this. They're totally committing war crimes and crimes against humanity there, while they're portraying themselves as the wronged party. And initially they were. Their people were attacked. You just can't go out and respond that way and expect anybody to sympathize with you. But yet the reason our politicians do in Washington is because they're receiving massive amounts of AIPAC contributions. Ted Cruz has about 1.4 million, and he's one of the biggest ones. And Colin Allred is about 300,000 or 400,000, I think. And so it's just another example of how these politicians should be wearing NASCAR-style jackets with badges showing all their big contributors on them, because that's who they're beholden to, not the average person, and not to right and wrong, and not to any kind of humanity. So, frankly, I would cut off all military aid to Israel. I cannot allow my tax dollars to go to killing all those children. And then they further go and say, oh, these judges at the International Criminal Court in The Hague are preparing an indictment against Benjamin Netanyahu and his defense minister, and also Hamas, which is good, but as war criminals for the actions on both sides of this war. And so politicians like Ted Cruz and others in Washington say, well, if these prosecutors in The Hague keep going after our friends in Israel, we're going to sanction them and we're going to indict them and all this. And,
I got to give you pushback on two things.
Yeah,
I'm not sure Israel technically has a right to self-defense because they are an occupying force. The only reason they haven't been named such is because the U.S. protects them from being named such. And when you're an occupying force, you have certain rights and responsibilities. But when you are starving and brutalizing people en masse, I'm not sure you can claim self-defense when you're, because all this crap didn't start on 7 October.
Oh, no,
it's been horrifying forever.
Exactly,
and,
you're right. 75 years practically.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something that needs to be done. And I am so tired of these guys bombing each other. But you also said something else earlier, and I had a meme for that. Everybody goes, oh, Chase Oliver, he wants to trans kids. And when you give him the nuance that he just doesn't want to ban a parent's right to make healthcare decisions, even if they're decisions that he disagrees with,
right,
which is the libertarian position.
Yes.
Then they go, oh, well, I'm going to vote for Trump. And I said, how is Trump a libertarian? So that's my Trump meme. And I think
exactly. Trump is an authoritarian. He's the opposite of a libertarian. I mean, once in a while, just by accident, like a broken clock is right twice a day or something. But once in a while, he might stumble on a libertarian position, like maybe less regulation in some area or something. But overall, he is an authoritarian. He wants government control over people.
What was the name of the? I'm sorry, I read a private message. What was the name of the commercial? I'm trying to find it here, and I don't see it at the top, or I don't see it at the bottom.
Well, they all say like Ted Brown. There's like 9 of them. 9. There should be 9 together. nine files together, and then the 10th one is like a longer one for the TikTok one. But yeah, they should all be together in that file, like just from yesterday.
She said one down there when Amber's given her thing. I'll see if I can find it for us.
Okay, great, because that's something that we're fundraising for right now. Also, we just sent out a fundraiser to all the contributors to the Texas Libertarian Party, and hopefully we'll start getting some response from that to start running the ads as like when people start a YouTube video, they might start seeing my ad for about 5 seconds or something, and hopefully we'll continue to watch it.
I really don't think people understand how much war is going on. I have a few things to bring up real quick, because this is the war thing, and we got conflicts in the Middle East and Africa.
Yeah,
45, give or take.
Mhm.
We've got conflicts in Asia, 21 or so, and this is a snapshot, so this could go up or down at any moment. We have at least 7 European conflicts.
Mhm.
We've got in the rest of Africa, we've got more than 35 armed conflicts.
Mhm.
And then when you turn around and look at Latin America, there are at least 6. And people always look at the cost of war and they go, oh my God, war costs a lot, which it really truly does. And it really truly does cost a lot. But nobody thinks about the human costs in death, the number of people killed in this conflict, or the socio-political costs with the people being displaced and the countries being ruined. I mean, the only reason we as a nation, everybody yells at me because I'm open borders. I don't believe in them. I think borders are just a way for you to know who you pay your taxes to, which master you pay taxes to.
Mhm.
However, with our fractured foreign policy, our fractured drug policy, our fractured payment of wars, we've funded or paid for everybody getting bombed. You know, so when people are coming in, we have to know who they are, because they're probably kind of irritated with us, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Well, a lot of the people are fleeing, of course, because of these war zones, and those are certainly legitimate refugees and all. And in fact, they're going not just here, but in fact, it's easier for a lot of the Middle Easterners to go to Europe, for example. But I'm not going to comment on European immigration policy, because I don't live in those countries. I'm only interested in U.S. immigration policy, and ours is a bit different than anyone else, because we're the melting pot. We pretty much integrate people into our society within a generation or two. They're all Americans like everyone else. The other countries don't necessarily do that. Like in France, how there's I don't know, the Muslim community is in some kind of zone where it says no go because they run their own laws or something, and the French police are afraid to go there. There shouldn't be anything like that, where they're having like a alternative society within a society. If they were having the melting pot like we are, those countries would be in much better shape probably. But again, for our country, yes, I wouldn't use the term open borders, but it's more open than we have now. I think we should have like Chase was talking about, the Ellis Island style
Yes.
immigration policy, where people here in Texas are legitimately upset, where there are massive amounts of immigrants swimming across the Rio Grande River and crawling through deserts and climbing over walls and fences and trying to get here, and just totally inundating some small towns along the border over here in Texas. So of course people are upset about that, but they shouldn't have to come that way. That's the problem. They should be able to come on a paved road where there's a building with U.S. government employees in it that can check them in. They shouldn't be like swimming across a river. They should be just driving right up to the border crossing. And it shouldn't be just in rural Texas. It should be in any place we have a port of entry, like any airport or any port, for like Caribbean people to like sail into New Orleans or something. It's just it's ridiculous the way we do it, and people should be let in unless there's some reason. It should be assumed should be let in unless there's some good reason not to. For example, they're like on an Interpol list of a wanted criminal, or they're obviously showing signs of a contagious disease or something like that. The same criteria they used back at Ellis Island. I mean, I welcome immigrants because they are good for our economy. They're good for our society, and they do have a lower crime rate than both legal and illegal immigrants have a lower crime rate than native-born Americans. And my opponent, Ted Cruz, is just terrible. He's like one of the most xenophobic, whip up the frenzy. He finds any crime that an immigrant has committed. He says, every damn day, every period, damn period, day period in his post, every damn day, some immigrants killing our women and children or something like that. Well, sure, that happens, but what about how many MAGA supporters are engaged in criminal activity? There's way more of them than there are immigrants, and they're probably engaged in all kinds of criminal activity too, but they're not tracked that way, of course. And so, I welcome immigrants. I mean, both of my grandfathers were immigrants. When my Greek grandfather came here in 1915, he was an unaccompanied minor. He was only 17. He boarded a ship in Izmir, Turkey, and they let him on the ship alone. And he came to the U.S. and he was checked in through Ellis Island and went off on his way to find a life in America. And that's the way it should be. He certainly. He begat like 12 descendants, including myself and my daughter and my cousins in Pittsburgh, and we're all, decent law-abiding citizens who have been productive in this country. And that's why people come. They come to make a better life for themselves and their families. And that's what most of the people who are coming here want to do that. And I'm sure you'll agree on that, they're not here to make trouble. I mean, now and again, of course, there's going to be somebody that wants to make trouble. But that's the vast majority are just here to make a better life for themselves.
I really think our diversity is our strength. When I grew up, I freaking grew up believing I could be president, and I watched Schoolhouse Rock, and I saw the great American melting pot. Mm-hmm. You come in and you're American. I mean, I'm part of the war machine. I've been called a mercenary too. So, and it's kind of true, because when you're young and you're coming up, you believe in what we do because they tell you it's right and good, and they tell you who the enemy is, and you believe it because you're young and you're making emotional decisions. Mm-hmm. Not even understanding how you're being manipulated and influenced.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And we are feeding a machine that is you just can't feel it. You just cannot feel it. It's horrifying. But we're going to bring Lana on. I'm going to skip to a commercial. Probably, let's see, where was her war one? There was a mountaineer. Oh, personal liberties. Or should we do base? I don't know. I'm really used to having somebody else come through and help run this thing. So stand by one.
Mike Scott, Libertarian Party nominee for Senate for the great state of Maryland. I'm going to try and do this one in under a minute. The question was, what is a military base? A military base is community. A military base is it's a small town. It's got grocery stores, department stores, churches, gas stations. A military base is a lot of things to a lot of people. To the locals, it's jobs, stability, a place to go in case stuff hits the fan. To the military, it could be force projection. To Congress, a military base is about $1 billion a year to the local economy, and it's jobs and taxes. So jobs for their constituents, taxes for their district. That's all it is. And they make their decisions based around money, not what's best. I won't do that. Vote Libertarian.
And we're welcoming Lana, but the other thing I wanted to say is we honestly and truly don't realize the scope of the problem. We have 750 bases in 80 countries and a military presence in maybe twice that. And our DOD budget, although it's huge, over $800 billion, is our number 4 spend behind Social Security, Medicare, and interest on the debt. I think interest on the debt is number 2. So, but Miss Lana, welcome back. I never asked, I always ask this, what exit you from?
What exit?
What exit? You're in Jersey. What exit?
Well, I'm in Sussex County, and that's all I'm going to say.
Gotcha.
I don't want people knocking on my door, or because I have this giant sign on the back of my truck that says "Stop the War Machine." I think.
So you're easy to find.
Yes.
I understand. You want to keep the crazy people away. Yeah. Do you represent Fort Lee and Inglewood? My cousin's from Inglewood, New Jersey, up there.
I believe that's in a different district. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Well, we're gonna.
you
I'm
guys were
sorry.
talking earlier, and just because it's on the forefront of my mind, because you were talking about it, about the cost of war.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't realize, like you said, that it's not just the literal cost money wise, and of course, more importantly, the death. But especially people who complain about immigrants and the crime that maybe they may or may not bring, which they don't statistically. But when you cause a conflict, or at least put, to quote Chase, to put your thumb on the scale of war, and it causes displacement, it causes resource decline. Those people are now desperate, homeless, and looking for something. So what's going to happen naturally from that? Immigration and desperation causes crime and theft and all of these things. So if you want, from their perspective, because I'm very pro immigration. I love immigrants. My father's an immigrant. I think that they're a great addition. But from the perspective of someone who wants to stop immigration, the best way to do that is to vote for pro peace candidates that will stop the American imperialism and the war machine, and stop displacing and killing all these people, and making a situation in which they're desperate enough to do these crimes, or to, you know, find their way on the other side of the planet.
Well, people like Ted said, immigrants are less criminally inclined
Yes.
statistically. And oh, by the way, I think they're 3 or 4 times more likely to be millionaires than are people who were born in this country, because they come in and they take advantage of the opportunities that are available to
Yeah,
them.
in New Jersey, one of the highest, or the demographic with the highest immigrant, or Indian Americans, and they come
Mhm.
here and they start businesses, and they own homes, and their children are going to college. Like, they're a great addition to the New Jersey economy. And statistically, American-born people are the ones committing the crimes, and then after that, it's legal citizens, and then after that, it's undocumented. Uh, um, Immigrants. So I don't know where they get this idea that it's all these illegal immigrants doing all the crime. It's just a distraction so they can close the
It's
border, really.
Well,
it's the
it's all
agenda, and
fair.
I'm sorry, it's the message being pushed by the media, because
Yeah.
if that's what you see, that's what you see. Again, I keep quoting this book, Robert Cialdini, Influence, Psychology, and something something. But it's the machine that feeds you your opinions, and you believe them automatically because they're in places of, Ted Cruz. He was a senator for 800 years, right? He's got to know what he's doing. He can't be a dirtbag, lying piece of monkey crap. Sorry.
Well, the thing about Ted Cruz is, and there are other senators like this too, they're like well-educated. I think Ted Cruz is an intelligent, well-educated attorney, and he even claims to have been a constitutional scholar and all this. But he's just basically like playing to the yahoos, kind of. And other senators do this too. John Kennedy of Louisiana does that. Another well-educated attorney who just are acting like they're not, in order to appeal to the lowest common denominator. They just they're fighting the culture wars. They're trying to turn people against each other. They're just demagogues, really. And Cruz is really good at this. And he gets out there a lot, and just is like, they must be scanning every news story every day to see where they can like blame somebody who's different for the nation's problems. So he's just awful in that regard. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to challenge him, is because while he might be actually maybe on economic issues and such, probably one of the better senators in that regard, he's just terrible on everything else, because he's a big culture warrior and just wants to divide people, and we sure don't need more of that.
And I think that Ted Cruz is one of the first to help spread that whole pet eating story, right? I believe.
Yeah,
So
that's so ridiculous. It's just a ridiculous
Well,
story
I
that
mean,
anybody can
and
believe that.
nobody's been to a Chinese restaurant. We were down in Waldorf about 15, 20 years ago, and they had dogs hanging. There was a fire or something there, and they found dogs hanging in a Chinese restaurant. At least that
Oh
was the
no.
urban legend down the road. So I don't know if it's
Mhm.
true, but
it's also like, yes, there are cultural differences. Like, for example, Italians, I believe they make traditionally the way you make salami is with horse meat, I believe. So when they came here and realized that you don't make salami with horse meat here, they were confused. So yes, there's going to be cultural differences, but I honestly, nobody's eating people's pets, and if they are, is that a reason to deport every single dark-skinned person that may be from Haiti or not? Absolutely not, right?
I lived in Korea for 3 years. I've eaten dog. I lived in the UAE. I eat camel. I've eaten horse, rattlesnake, gator. I honestly don't see why cats get a pass. I've been down to Jamaica and they run around and they're everywhere. It's like an infestation. So I
Yeah.
personally think kitty on a
Yeah,
stick.
my father's Peruvian, and in Peru they eat guinea pigs. Now, the guinea pigs that are raised for food in Peru are a different breed. They're much bigger and fatter, and they're livestock. They're like the size of cats. Some of them. They're different than the guinea pigs that we have as pets here. That are cute and small and not really edible, I would say. But they do technically eat guinea pigs in Peru, and it's a delicacy. Everyone eats it. It's not a problem. They also eat alpaca. So
Well, in Korea, it's the same way. The dogs are actually, they don't go out and find your dog on the street. They're farms and they're a specific breed, and it's K-gogi, and it's expensive and it's a delicacy. So you try it, right? Yeah. So, but I was looking through the Constitution because I sort of support and defend the silly thing, and it said that we are supposed to maintain a navy. And we can make appropriations for an army, but those appropriations shouldn't last more than 2 years. We are not a self-defense force anymore. I don't think we should have a Secretary of Defense. We should have a Secretary of Imperial War or something, because we're
Yeah,
not.
They used to call it that. Yeah, they used to call it Secretary of War until after World War II.
Yeah.
that's part of my, obviously war is part of my platform, and what I want is to stop sending money overseas, to withdraw from NATO, withdraw from the UN, close all US bases all over the world, bring all the troops home, abolish the draft and conscription to vote. Like, we should not be involved in any conflict anywhere in the world, and our defense force should be truly a defense force for invasion. We shouldn't be going on these peacekeeping initiatives or projects all over the world, because they're not actually keeping peace, and it's also none of our business. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping, that in the future we can just focus on ourselves, and our military can focus on defense and not murdering people, millions of people all over the world.
Well, that would be ideal. That would be ideal.
Yeah. Now it seems like the one that's been interesting recently that I've been reading about is there are U.S. troops and military operations in Africa, which most Americans know nothing about, and I'm pretty informed, I think. And it seems like in the country of Niger or Niger or Niger, however they pronounce that, there have been troops there for a long time, and the government there says, "America, leave." And they wouldn't, and finally they made some agreement to like pull the troops out. And I'm thinking, why has there ever been like 1,000 U.S. troops in that country? It's like some backwater that nobody ever goes to. And it appears that there and in other African countries, there's a worry that China is like providing foreign aid to these countries, and the U.S. doesn't want China to get in there and have any influence in these African countries. And my first thought is let them go bankrupt doing that, because I mean the US has been giving foreign aid to those countries for the last 60 years since they become independent, and it's just money down the tubes, because that they're just not using that for any kind of economic development. It goes into the leader's Swiss bank account or something, and those countries are completely poverty stricken. They have no rule of law, and that's what they need, is the rule of law and a free market. They don't need foreign aid, and China's going to soon learn that they're just going to waste money over there and everything's just going to go to naught. So let's just let them. We should have no involvement in Africa whatsoever, in my opinion, just to pick a part of the world that I think more people could agree on, I think, than any other part of the world.
I mean, you say no, but I wouldn't mind investing in Africa, but I'm tired of our foreign aid going to destroying things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If there's rule of law, you need that
If
first
there's rule
before
of
there's any
law.
reason to invest. Yeah.
Yeah. And Africa is probably a great place to invest for the future, but not if all we're going to do is bomb it. In fact, I heard Rwanda was on the same road as Singapore was several years ago. After its big hubbub, it's actually, I mean, the guy's a strong man, supposedly, but He set the rule of law, and they are thriving. So people don't understand. They differentiate aid from humanitarian aid because humanitarian aid makes people feel better, and you're feeding folks and blah blah blah. When they just say aid, they hand those guys a debit card and they go use it at Northrop Grumman or whichever defense contractor they want to buy whatever they want to kill other people. And we're better than that. It drives our economy right now, and that's explains our foreign policy, but that does not. We could do so much more. We could be so much better, So
Yeah, and a lot of I have family who's in the military. I come from a military family. My father 2 times went to Vietnam. My mother was in the Air Force during the Vietnam War. So, and I have family members in the military. So a lot of times we do humanitarian efforts that do good. We send doctors over there and take care of their animals, but it's more of like, hey, look what we're doing. We're doing nice things when on this side behind the curtain we're bombing millions of people and children and destabilizing countries on purpose. And this happens all the time, that we end up creating a vacuum where radicalists come in and take over, and then we have more of an excuse. This happened during the Iraq War. We have now another excuse to stay there because we created a vacuum that then a radicalist came in. And that's something else that I didn't mention earlier. The cost of war is that the more we interfere, the more chance of radical groups happening, like Hamas, for example. They only exist because what did you think was going to happen when you annexed land and created an open air prison and starved people and, it created a situation where they got desperate? What did you think was going to happen?
Well, everybody calls them terrorists, but I heard a quote, and I forget who said it. It was, the only just war is on your own soil, fighting to repel invaders, or something like that. And if you look at that, then those guys that came in 48 and just started raping, pillaging, and taking land are kind of invaders. So in one way to look at it, the Palestinians, and again, Hamas is what they is. They're a terrorist organization, but I kind of feel the same about the government of Israel. The people of Israel and the people of Palestine suffer, just like the people in the inner cities of Chicago suffer due to bad policies. It's government is the source of evil, and that's why I, as a libertarian, think shrinking government is what we really need to do. I mean,
absolutely. And one problem also they have over in Israel and Gaza and the West Bank, all the parts of that area, there's really not clearly defined private property rights, like an individual tracts of land, where people can just sell their house to whoever they want and have the right to dispose of their property how they want. And that seems to be one of the reasons how the Israelis, like in the West Bank, are able just to go in and destroy Palestinian people's homes, or just move Israelis in there like settlers and all. It just makes absolutely no sense. If anybody actually owned their property and there was a rule of law, that wouldn't be allowable or acceptable. I can't believe that they think it's acceptable just to go in and take somebody's house and move somebody else in there. And that's what they did in Gaza. That's what they did in the West Bank. And they're continuing to do that, setting up more settlements like that. And it's just shocking how they bulldoze people's homes. They get out of here, bulldoze their house, and then just let somebody else build a house in the same spot. It's crazy.
I think it's worse than that. I think that if you say you're Jewish and you go over there, you go, this is my ancestral property, you can make them pay to demolish their own home, or else they'll demolish it and then send them a bill for it. So it's actually probably a little worse than that. I can't say that that's 100% true, but that's what I heard, and I heard it from multiple sources, and it's just horrifying. It's horrifying.
And if it was literally any other place in the world, we would all be in agreement that this is horrible. They're just demolishing these people's homes and killing them, and their children are dying. But because the Israeli lobby is so powerful all over the world, particularly in our Congress, suddenly everything that they're doing is excused, and it's totally fine, and they have the right to do it. I also want to just, since we're talking about this particular conflict, I do want to make the distinction that it's important not to conflate a state or a government with its people, right? So like Americans are not the American government. I disagree with almost everything our government says. I have no control over what they do. I do not condone anything they do all over the world, yet I'm an American. So it's important to not conflate those two things, because we are at a point where we're talking about, if you oppose what the Israeli government is doing, you must be anti-Semitic, you hate Israelis, you hate Jewish people, and that's simply not true. I personally don't conflate the two at all. And I think the reason why it happened is, in our Congress last year, they passed a dozen resolutions saying that if you protest against Israel, you're anti-Semitic. Like, actual resolutions passed almost immediately in Congress, and all the resolutions that were kind of saying that, wait a second, Palestinians have human rights. They have the right to exist also. Like, we can't, those didn't pass. Those get stuck just being introduced. But because of the Israeli lobby, all these resolutions and bills get passed, and everything is anti-Semitic.
Just go to trackapac.com, TRACKAIPAC.com. If you get bored, and go look at how our country's bought. And what really pisses me off, the part that chaps my ass, pardon my language, is we send them billions. They send back hundreds of millions, and then they bribe our congressmen for anywhere between thousands to, like you said, Ted Cruz is 1.4 million. And that's the thing. We keep sending them billions, and they keep sending us nothing. That's a great return on investment. I mean, you lobby a little bit, you get a lot.
There's not much return. That's the case on a lot of lobbying too. I used to say that the guys that were the most effective lobbyists economically were dairy farmers, because they just gave like fairly small contributions to all the congressmen, and they got really big subsidies out of that. But I think Israel's even taking it one step further with how much they're getting out of the amount they're spending on the contributions indirectly through AIPAC. So, but one thing about being anti-Semitic when you criticize Israel, that's just an absurdity. That's like trying to shut people up, really, because I reserve the right to criticize every government in the world. And I will, if given the opportunity, because they all deserve criticism, some more than others. I mean, it's easiest. It's easier to criticize ours because we're here and we see more of what they do than anybody else. But just from looking at the news, you can criticize the Russian government and the Chinese government and certainly the Israeli government. I mean, some of them you have less criticism. I mean, who's going to criticize Iceland, But there's plenty of governments to criticize. Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, they're all just violating people's rights right and left, just some more than others. And Israel happens to be the rights violator du jour there in the news. But there's still plenty of other countries you don't want to ignore who are also violating people's rights terribly, like Russia and China and Iran. I mean, these countries are violating people's rights right and left. But unfortunately, we aren't able to do anything about that. But we sure can criticize them and bring it to everybody's attention.
And it's not only that, but it's our job to. We are getting close on time. We have to give Miss Legia her spotlight so that she can tell us about herself, why we should vote for her, and how we can contact her. Give her her 2-minute spotlight, and then we are going to have a campaign update. So go to town, Lana.
All right, so we did talk about this a little bit earlier, but yeah, I'm Lana Legia, running for House of Representatives in New Jersey, District 7. I'm running because, like most of you, I feel powerless to our own government. The state has way too much power, and it's spreading that power all over the world, and we need to start voting in people in Congress that are aware of this and want to stop it, because it's not going to unless we start voting differently. As I said earlier, I'm a radical advocate for liberty. I am extremely strong-willed. I won't bend the knee to special interests or lobbyists. I don't care about having power. I just want my liberty back, and I want your liberty back, and I want peace around the world, as we all do, and I want to keep the money that I earn, and I want the state to leave me alone, basically. My district is a battleground district. It's in danger of flipping, and what I'm hoping is to have something very unexpected happen that they're not banking on, and that's turning it gold. So if you want to help out, my website is lanalagia.com. I'm also on X and Facebook, Lagia, New Jersey Liberty. If you want to donate, that's awesome. But at a minimum, what helps is liking my posts and just spreading the word that I exist. If you're in New Jersey, contact me if you want to help. I am door knocking. I am going to events. I'm talking to people face to face. If you want to help with memes and fun stuff like that, there's always something for everyone to do. I already have a couple people that are outside of the district and outside of the state helping on my campaign. So whether you're in the state or not, I could use your help. Support's always great.
I am so happy you decided to run. If it was Wednesday, you'd be Woman Crush Wednesday. But the reason it's a crush is because you're passionate and you are a radical advocate for liberty, and I dig that. So
And I'm
thank you
definitely
very
not a
much,
vampire.
ma'am.
Well, good
I'm
luck
definitely
to
not
you,
a
Lana.
vampire.
Definitely not a vampire. And she's going to start the Gothitarian caucus. I'm pushing her that way because I'm going to join. I've got a couple black outfits. Don't ask me about my burgundy. We're going to play a commercial right now because the queen on her scene, Miss Feena, came out and actually got us Ted Brown's commercial. And then we're going to go straight into campaign updates. So thank you so much for joining us. And up in New Jersey, District 7, vote Libertarian.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Ted Brown, Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senator. Did you know that Senator Ted Cruz and his Democratic opponent, Congressman Colin Allred, both want to ban TikTok? I'm the only candidate in the race that believes in your right to choose which social media that you use. They do not have the right to cut you off and tell you that you don't. They're telling you that China is going to provide propaganda. They also tell you that China is going to steal your personal information. Well, the U.S. government has a monopoly on that. They just don't want competition. The U.S. government steals your data and provides you with propaganda on a daily basis. So instead, we need to have choice. As a libertarian, I believe you have the right to choose which social media that you use. I don't think the government has the right to tell you that. And there are also plenty of people that run their businesses on TikTok. Are we going to tell them that they have to close their businesses because the government says, we just don't like TikTok? Come on. We need to promote freedom. So each of you can decide which social media that you use. So declare your independence from politics as usual. Instead of voting for these Democrats and Republicans that want to limit your freedom, vote Libertarian, vote for me, Ted Brown, and I approve this message.
You know, the other reason they don't want TikTok out there is they don't want freedom of speech that they can't control. And I don't think they can compete. Have you seen that Huawei or whatever it's called, the brand new phone with the trifold? And a lot of overseas locations have some amazing stuff. But we're about to do our Chase Oliver campaign update, and I cannot wait. Miss Amber Howell is coming up. Welcome back. It is a Tuesday. How are you, Miss Amber?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Hi there.
Yeah, blessed and highly favored. Life's good.
Good.
Where's Chase? What's going down?
Chase is in California right now. We are doing an LA fundraiser and a meet and greet. Some of these were kind of thrown together last minute, but that's just our life right now.
That's awesome.
But he'll leave Texas and then go to, or not Texas, I'm backwards. He will leave California and go to Texas for the Plano Balloon Festival.
Okay, he's going to Plano. Do you you're not at home then?
I am not at home. I am at a friend's house because I don't want to go home. He was babysitting my kitten and now she's bonded with her brothers. So I'm just like, okay, well.
Oh, I thought you were on the trail with Chase.
No. I went to Indiana to help out with the debate night stuff. And then I came home. But okay. I know we had some technical issues. What had happened was we did 2 sound checks. Everything was fine. And then I guess the computer kind of went to sleep and then popped back up. We had no sound. So I was like, oh no, well, we got that fixed. It was fine. And then the video went out and I'm like, And then it went out again, and I'm like,
You just started with what had happened was. I'm just making sure you know that nothing good ever comes after what had happened was.
that's why I used it.
So,
But come to find out that the camera was plugged into a low voltage brick, and it was supposed to be plugged into a brick that looked almost exactly the same but was higher voltage, and there was really no way for me or Chris to know that the cables had been swapped around. So what happened, the camera just kept dying. It wasn't getting enough juice.
yeah, it happens. It's glitchy.
I
So,
think we had a fairly good turnout. We almost had 10,000 viewers before we ended it. So
10,000 viewers. That's really good.
yeah.
Really good. So,
I did get a couple of pictures. I was busy working, so I didn't have a ton of time to get pictures. And I have a little video. So did I share the Rolling Stone article?
I haven't seen it.
Okay. So this is the greatest headline ever.
I agree with it, though. I think I should be able to have a Scud missile in my garage if I want one, because, why not?
Chase joked, and he's like, I'm going to get this framed. You should.
That's kind of awesome, but I'm not sure if that'll attract the right kinds of folks. Libertarians will be like, lean in, brother, but that seems kind of a inflammatory title. I'm not sure if it's good or bad, but I dig it.
And then I do have a video from Indiana, if I can scroll down right here. So this is one of the Indiana interviews we had.
Fox 59 is your local election headquarters, and tonight one of the candidates for president was right here in Indianapolis. Libertarian presidential candidate Chase Oliver spoke tonight at an event held by the Indy Rainbow Chamber. Oliver's the first openly gay candidate to win his party's nomination for president. Tonight he spoke about his party's goals in Indiana and across the country.
Our biggest goal is to bring out more voters in the process who just haven't felt represented at all by Republicans or Democrats, and we want to make sure there are more options on the ballot that voters can say, hey, that person represents me and my values. I'm going to actually get off the couch and go vote.
The Libertarian candidate for governor, Donald Rainwater, was also at that event tonight. You can see more of that interview coming up Sunday morning at 9:30 on this week's edition of In Focus.
Meanwhile, last night's debate continues to make headlines in this race for the White House.
Yeah, worst debate ever.
Is it worse or better than the first one? That's my question.
Well, Kamala supposedly had the question, so I think it was a little bit better just because she could actually remember her answers, unlike Holocaust Joe. Kamala Chameleon was, she did her thing.
Well, I'm skeptical that she had the questions, but I know she memorized certain answers ahead of time. It looks like to me, and she just was able to spout them off, whether that was the question or not. She just remembered a whole bunch of stuff that she was able to enthusiastically express, and that sure looked a lot better than Trump's grumpy old man shtick that he had, and saying some crazy things. She didn't say anything really crazy. We disagree with a lot of it, but she at least was kind of perky and seemed attached to reality, which I think that's why she's doing better than one might expect.
She always seems kind of drunk to me. I'm not a fan. I like her better than Trump, but that's like saying, I like breast cancer better than prostate cancer. Why would you?
So that's about a good comparison, because they're both like cancers on the politics of this country. But if something happened to either one of them, their replacements would be just as cancerous. That's the system we're talking about with the Democrats and Republicans.
That's
statement there.
Yeah, I'm still thinking Chase to win. So again, not a holy roller, but that Bible verse is why I'm running, and the bottom one is why I think I'm going to win. So they can look those up in the future if they want to. So. But I really think we can win because we, the people, are getting upset. And it's not about money. You don't need $20 million to win or lose a Senate race. All you need is for the people of Texas to vote Libertarian. All you need is for the people in the U.S. to vote Libertarian. We don't have to push the wet noodle, but people have to be pissed off enough about business as usual to pull us in, because there's not enough pushing we can do to get there.
Yep.
So.
But I did have a couple more pictures. This is from Mike's visit to Buena Vista. I'm not sure who the person in black is, but I think the one in blue is Jennifer Leatherberry. They did a oh, and there's Chase doing an interview with Fox.
So where's Mike? He was in Buena Vista, but
Mike was in Buena Vista. They had a little like festival up there for Labor Day.
Okay. Cool.
I almost said Memorial Day because I get those mixed up all the time. It's fine. And then I did want to plug some of the members of our comms team. Starting over here next to me in blue, that is Sherry. She is our editor. And then you have Kelsey next to me. She is our communications director. And then Elaine is our social media director, strategist. And then Laurie over there does our graphics. They work very, very hard. And I'm very proud of them all the time. So I did want to shout them out.
Thank you, ladies. I mean, dude, you want a team of passionate people? Women make the world go round. I keep telling people that. Go look in the DMV. Nothing but women all throughout the DMV getting the job done. You look at any hospital, they're pushing that thing forward. So, you can't get anything done without a powerful team behind you.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, y'all have any questions for me?
What's next for Mike? What's next for Chase?
Mike, I think is, let me look at the calendar because I was looking at it earlier and then I got sidetracked. So Mike coming week is going to Michigan.
Okay.
And then Chase is going to Texas. Then I think we may go to Pittsburgh after that too.
Yeah. Springfield, Ohio might be a good idea too, with what's been going on there, because I don't know if Trump and Kamala are headed over there to personally examine what's going on.
That's something they should have done before they made all of those comments.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys?
And Vance is the one that should have known better. It's his state. He just purposely is lying about it.
Yep, that's crazy. But that's what they all do, right? They lie to get votes.
Well, I have to make sure to get. I'm sorry, I have to get Andrew Horning the right thing. I think he has the same problem you did. Can somebody DM me the link to the one that she sent you? Because I think Andrew's having the same issue you did, Ted. He's in the background in a different.
Okay, he needs to go to the StreamYard.com and then the number of the show that was in the link. StreamYard.com/ that show code, and I got in that way.
StreamYard.com. So
slash the code for the show that was in the link.
Okay, so it was the right one in the one that she sent on the email?
It was, yes.
I'm going to take myself off. You guys talk amongst yourselves for a second while I try and figure out how to get Andrew Horning on you.
Okay. Well, Amber, we certainly welcome Chase over to Texas coming up to that balloon festival. I'm not going to be making it because I have another engagement in Houston, but we sure are happy to have him because obviously he brings out a lot of activists and a lot of people who want to see him and hopefully support the LP and the efforts. There's like a big booth at that festival, and I think he's going to be there to campaign.
Yeah, we should have a good turnout in LP Texas. Some of them have already started contacting media to help me out because I'm drowning over here. But I appreciate all of their help, and I appreciate everybody in Texas that's helped out with the campaign.
Yeah, and I understand Chase is going to be coming back for the main election night party also at Dallas on election day.
We're trying to finalize plans. That's our number one plan, or our plan A. We have to make BC EF. So yeah, we're thinking Dallas. It may change. Like I'm not sure if I can say that's absolutely where we're gonna have it, but once I get that information and I can publicly say it, I will.
Well, that's good. And I'm sure I've been happy with what I've seen from the campaign. I mean, the media coverage is good. Obviously, it's local media. It seems like, right? I mean, you're not going to get coverage from like David Muir and Nora O'Donnell and some of the national media. But certainly, if whatever cities Chase is going to, it seems like that's where he's able to get some attention.
I got Andrew Horning the correct link, I believe, so he should be coming on soon. And I'm just playing in the chat. You guys talk amongst yourselves. I'm trying to be a background producer at the same time. So
I'm not sure who that is.
oh, that was Sixers. He's a longtime listener of the show. He's down in Florida. Great guy. Great guy.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's good to hear from. I saw there's a number of people in the chat room there. But I hope a lot of people watch these shows and learn about the campaigns, because it's a matter of like the grassroots enthusiasm. If we don't have the grassroots, whether it's for Chase or for me or for any of our candidates, we're sure not going to get the kind of attention from the big shots, the major media that the other candidates get, the major party candidates. So we need the grassroots support, and for people to watch these shows, share them, like and share social media, anything to get the word out.
And that's kind of my theory too. If we get more local media, one, it's a little easier to get than the national media, because they're not going to pay attention to us unless Jeremy Kauffman says something crazy.
And that's who Sixers.
Jeremy. Okay. Yes.
I had mentioned that earlier to Lana. One of the reasons Feena and I decided to put this together is because you have all these separate campaigns and we're all going in our direction and we're saying a lot of the same things, but none of us are tied together because we're all running in our different states or running at our different times. And what we need is a coherent message, because you keep hearing vote blue no matter who, vote red until we're dead, or whatever the heck the red side says. But, if you don't like being told, vote gold. I don't know what we have to do to get it there, but we have to come as a block and go, hey, you're not buying Mike Scott. You're buying Andrew Horning, Mike Scott, Feena, but knowing there's 7 of us who runs as a block and we're in lockstep. We're not beholden to the money. And, similarly, there are around 30 House people running. We aren't some fringe group of lunatics who can't do the job. We are folks who are passionate about liberty and just want us to get back to freedom. So that's where we are. I forget who said it. We went from being 30% of the people being 100% enslaved to 100% of the people being 30% enslaved, aka taxation is theft.
Yeah, exactly. There was some amusing statement like that right after the American Revolution, where some guy was complaining, we got rid of one tyrant 1,000 miles away, and now we have 1,000 tyrants a mile away. Like the people in your town telling you what to do instead of the king. So it's like one way or the other. There's going to be like people trying to tell other people what to do rather than just letting people mind their own business.
Oh yeah, we have a ton of that where I live.
Where are you?
Just people trying to tell other people what to do and stealing signs out of their yard, like children. I might not agree with you, but I'm not going to steal your property because I'm a good libertarian.
I will definitely steal your property, and I will vandalize the heck out of it. I see all these signs, and I haven't started doing it yet because I'm told I'm the nominee this time, and that's bad. But I don't see anything wrong with in front of my opponent's signs. Larry Hogan is Lockdown Larry to me. So I made a bunch of signs that said Lockdown Larry as stickers, and I handed them out to people at festivals and said, don't put them on the signs, even though they cover faces perfectly. And Angela also Brooks, Angela also bought signs. The one thing Donald Trump did was he allowed you to be who you were. Everybody else talks liberty. He actually went out and he says the stuff that's on his mind, and a lot of it is horrific, but it means you can have a little bit of an edge now. So I got a little bit of an edge to me, and I don't like what they're doing. And I would rather burn it down or spread manure over the Capitol, but I'm cool with just putting stickers over signs or making them go away, or, you know, drive-by shootings with the shotgun on the signs. I mean, you know, we'll figure something out to make sure they know we're displeased.
Yeah.
You just
It's funny. I'm not seeing either cruise or all red signs. Maybe people are afraid because there's so much, political violence going on. They don't want to be associated with letting their neighbors know they're for either candidate. You know, I don't see Trump. I see a few Kamala signs because I'm in Austin. I don't see any Trump signs. I don't see any cruise or all red signs. So it's kind of baffling in some ways. But then again, people don't want to get to be victims of violence by some crazies which there seem to be on both sides there.
I think they also don't want to open it up to debate because, again, I've heard word of one debate that may happen, and no one's called me. So I don't even think they're going to debate. I think they're just going to float through on that bow wave of Trump and Harris and just hope that the people vote their way. And it's a shame if they do, because you said it earlier, they never fix anything. We campaign on the same issues. They never fix anything because the game is divide and conquer. They're pimps.
Exactly.
And Georgia, with the stuff that they're doing with the other third-party candidates. The Democrats sued to take Stein and West off the ballot, and then they got put back on the ballot. And then the Republicans were countersuing to keep, I think, West or Dela Cruz on the ballot because they thought she would take votes away from Harris. So now Cruz is the only other third-party candidate on the ballot, but they're not even counting his votes.
Well, I listened to Claudia. I've actually met Miss De La Cruz. She's a really nice person and she understands the issue. My problem with her is her answer is give the government more power. And that is the exact opposite of what we should be doing. If you want a socialist institution, then you have a factory that's socialist and the people that are working it own the thing and they get a part of the property. You don't have a socialist government because governments are naturally inefficient, ineffective, and it's a waste of your freaking money, dude.
Yeah. It's amazing with some of these other candidates because there's a lot of good views, especially on civil liberties and foreign policy. There's a lot of agreement with the leftist foreign policies. I still remember, though, like back long ago when I was in California, I was debating, each party had a representative, and I was debating this guy from the Peace and Freedom Party, which is a California-only party, which calls itself a feminist socialist party. And they've been on the ballot a long time in California. And their representative and I were having a love fest. We were agreeing on foreign policy and on the drug war, civil liberties, all this across the board. And then suddenly he said, but we must nationalize all personal property or some really stupid economic thing. I said, how can a guy that was so smart on all these other issues and so right just be so economically illiterate? And that's part of the problem. People just don't understand economics, or they don't want to understand economics. I even kid that Colin Allred, my Democratic opponent, would faint if he had to read an economics book. But it's even worse with some of these radical leftists, though, because they purposely are maybe even reading Das Kapital or something like that. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't make sense to me, but it's an emotional decision. Government has been the answer. Government has so much power. I really believe that they feel that if they could take over the government, that with all that power, they would do the right things. And that's just not how human beings work. I mean, I understand the sentiment. I really do. But to the oppressed, limited government is as close as we get to freedom. And black, white, brown in this nation in 2024, we are the oppressed. And I mean, hell, they're trying to sell welfare to middle-class white folks now. They call it universal basic income. And it's, I mean, I don't care what they call it. It's welfare. And the welfare state is the oldest con game in the world. You take money from people quietly, you give it back to them in a big way. That's not Mike Scott. That's Thomas Sowell.
But it keeps people dependent on the government.
It keeps people dependent on the government. And once you identify with those people who are helping you, they did me a favor. You don't know how many people voted George Bush the second time because he gave them $600 back from their taxes the first time. Look, they're helping me. Look, it's not help, dude.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's not. It's not. and they offer to give you everything. I'll give you tax breaks. I'll give you, whatever you want. And it's all money that we, the people, work for. I don't understand economic literacy. Whoa, we lost Amber.
Yeah. How about Camel is 25,000 house down payment?
Well, I think she
increased the price of each house by 25,000 probably.
I think she said that was just going to be a tax break, though. But she also said she wasn't going to snatch the guns. And then every time I heard, my husband has guns. I have guns. I was the top cop in California. But every time I hear her talking, she's about Aussie-style gun grabs, dude.
Yeah. I'd like to see her on a range or something. I've certainly never seen anything like that.
So, anything else coming up next week we should know about for Mike or Chase?
I don't think so. I'm still waiting on the rest of the schedule to come out. We're putting together a itinerary so everybody knows where they're going when, and I don't have to do math with the time conversions.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and play a commercial. Thank you so much, Amber, for coming out. And I forgot you. What did you name your cat again? I lost it from last week. I spaced it.
Luna.
Luna, not Shadow. Good. Luna, not Shadow. That's an awesome name. And, scratch her behind the ear and says Uncle Mike says hello.
I sure will.
And give Chase and Mike just pass them my congrats and tell them to keep swinging. And if they come to Maryland, look me up.
All righty.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to play a commercial real quick. I think I'm going to go ahead and play Blood of Tyrants again because in honor of Feena being down there at the largest food and beverages convention in America. So we're going to play Blood of Tyrants, and then we're going to bring on Andrew Horning.
All right, bye.
Drew, welcome back.
Howdy.
I got to play my Blood of Tyrants commercial. I think there was a little flub where I kept mixing up the Amber intro and Blood of Tyrants.
Sure.
Loosen that in front of the keyboard. Don't worry about it. That's the problem on most mechanics when we're out.
Yeah. Hi.
Andrew Horning is back, and I just want to say war, yeah, what is it good for?
Absolutely nothing.
That's what I'm saying.
Say it again. Yeah.
Good to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I think I'm sorry about any glitches I might still have in my temporary office. We're doing a bunch of stuff on the farm here, and I'm temporarily misplaced, and I hope to be back in my regular spot, but here I am.
Without Feena's expertise running this thing, half of my show is going to be glitched. So I wouldn't worry about a thing, sir. Thank you very much. We're going to put you on top and let you speak for a couple minutes. It's the standard thing we did last time. The 2 minutes solo, come in, speak your piece, tell them where to find you. Okay. And I have to give you the introduction. Author, Senate nominee from the great state of Indiana. He's part of this block. Me, Feena, Ted Brown, Andrew Horning. You want to come in, Feen? She's hiding out in the background just for, oh, no, she does not. But we have a solid 7 potential Senate nominees. And they said you need about 5% of the population to affect a real revolution who are passionate and hard chargers. 7's more than 5. We could go in and do real change, affect real change in Senate. And so.
Well, that's, I think one of the things we often miss is that, in a 3-way race, you don't have to get 50%, of course, obviously. And if we just get significant numbers, rising above, the usual 3% or whatever, and it looks like this time we might get, it looks like my poll numbers are somewhere around 5%. It if we can get a significant number of people to vote for us, then what that really says more than anything else is that we're done with the two-party system, and that that this corrupt anti-constitutional monstrosity that's both sides funded by the military industrial complex and scientific technological elite that Eisenhower warned us about. If people are finally seeing how divisive and angry and tribal and stupid all of this is, then we've at least got a chance for a peaceful revolution in terms of a statement. Maybe we don't win elections. I just put up a little spot on Twitter, just about a minute long. That's I'm probably going to end up posting that other places, but I'm kind of recognizing, with the poll numbers being what they are right now, this late in the game, they're probably getting more accurate. Here in Indiana, there's essentially no chance for the Democrat to win. And for me, in the looking like I'm in the 5% range, I'm not even the margin of difference this time around. When I ran in 2012, I was the margin of difference. I got a pretty high percentage of the vote, and I got death threats and all kinds of stuff. But I think it's relatively at this point, there isn't much of a case to say, oh, I have to vote Republican to keep the Democrat out in my race. So it's a good opportunity for people to, at the very least, say that we want something different. And we have to be realistic. If we're not going to be sweeping, the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives, we at least have to offer the opportunity for voters to say, I'm done with this. And so it might not be a full nullification, but at least it's a protest. And we do need a protest. I think too many people say, it's better to vote for something than against something, but that's kind of dumb, really. I mean, we have politicians without elections everywhere on the planet. And the whole point of elections is to fire them. It's our weapon to get rid of bad government. And it's just like Jefferson, basically, to paraphrase what he said in the Declaration of Independence, we will put up with an awful lot before we do anything to basically get rid of the suffering that we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
And we're used to a lot of suffering because we're pretty comfortable in every other respect. We've got cell phones and cars, and gas prices go up and down, and sometimes we complain, sometimes we're happy when we shouldn't be. And all of that stuff conspires to make us vote badly. And here on the edge of World War III and socioeconomic collapse, you would think people would be more angsty and ready for change, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like we're going to do what we habitually do and reelect all the warmongers.
We're already in World War III. People just don't realize it yet. I was listening to Andrew Bustamante. He's the big-haired, ambiguously brown ex-CIA guy. Very famous guy. A lot of people have heard of him. I don't know if you guys have.
No.
Andrew Bustamante, he said we're already in World War III, just like World War II started. And it didn't start out with this big thing where everybody got into it. It was regional conflicts all over the place and alliances forming. And then you look one day and boom, America jumps in it. I really think with the things we're doing in Iran, the hubbub in Ukraine, the Middle East being destabilized, I really kind of think
approving U.S. missiles being launched against Russia, that's
long range.
And so, although to be fair, we really never ended World War I. That if you look to see what World War II was about, that was basically a continuation of World War I. And in fact, all of the trouble we've had in the Middle East was a continuation of the destabilization that we caused. Lawrence Arabia warned us about that, in the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. And so, what we have done since the war to end all wars is essentially just never stop, because what we have ended up doing is what Smedley Butler talked about in his War is a Racket, what Truman warned about when he was trying to tell us about the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover manipulating Congress, what Eisenhower warned about, and what, JFK, he wanted to bust up the CIA and cast it to the wind. But we should have, paid attention when the warning stopped, I suppose. But even Clinton, in a speech in Dublin, not that long ago was saying that, by the time somebody becomes the president or leader of a nation, other people are calling the shots. And who are those other people?
Yeah.
We know who those other people are. So, you have the Larry Finks and the people behind BlackRock, all of the military industrial guys, of course, but some of the big investors basically have bought into Grumman, Northrop, all of the major players. And it's a relatively small number of people who are not elected, who are, basically these Malthusian transhumanist psychopaths running the world right now.
And they get to buy the Supreme Court because Supreme Court had no ethics rules, and billionaires were hosting them on yachts and sending them to lavish parties. And then they came out with Citizens United, which again,
you make it sound like a bad thing. We voters love this, apparently. I mean, this is what we vote, like Nancy Pelosi's stock tips. That's the kind of thing we really should be taking advantage of.
Senators get to impeach folks. That was one of our things we get to do, and I want a serious ethics investigation into SCOTUS.
The House
and
impeaches,
Congress.
We try them. So the House does the impeachment. After they're impeached, we do the trial.
We do the trial.
And hopefully we're the ones who, can and so that's what should happen, but there aren't enough impeachments. If you were serious about what should warrant impeachment, just the fact that there is a fund in Congress to pay for the sexual peccadillos of members.
They canceled that a couple years ago. Not a lot of years ago, by the way.
Dang it!
They can't. I heard they canceled it. I'll look it up again. But
but you know what? They canceled Operation Northwoods and all this kind of stuff. That they say they cancel these things, and we're never going to do it again. And then no more Operation Mockingbird. But then we catch them doing it again, and now sometimes you just rename stuff. And so what total information awareness just gets commoditized, commercialized as Palantir, or you've got things that that we used to call like the Operation Mockingbird now is the Trusted News Initiative that is kind of sponsored by WEF and the BBC, and everybody's in it, including Disney and all of these other large corporations. So what used to be just politics is now a money-making operation for an awful lot of people.
And all the corporations are in it together. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, what would you say about that Palantir? Because I wasn't familiar with them, but their chairman was on Bill Maher's Real Time the other night. And Bill was like lauding him for being, defending America and all this. I'm like, this sounds kind of off somehow. What's the deal with this guy?
And he calls himself a libertarian, And so, Thiel is an amazing character in a lot of ways. And if you look to see what, how much power he had in picking, well, he funded, Trump the last time too, but now he's much more heavily involved with the VP pick. And so Peter Thiel is an amazingly powerful guy. And he's exactly what I'm talking about. When you had, there are two people that funded this. Peter Thiel is one of them, and I'm forgetting the name of the other guy who's the Democrat. And they basically do this divide and conquer thing where, one half is Democrat, the other half is Republican. They both played. They don't care who wins as long as whoever wins picks up the phone when they call. And that's where, yes, there are, the CIA and, the bad guys who try to assassinate people. They can be very partisan because they're relatively under control of whoever's got the elected seat. But the people who are really running things, who don't care who gets assassinated particularly, they're the ones who are making money no matter what. And so they're the ones that have both sides of this operation pretty well tied up. And that's what I guess I'm talking about. If voters are sick of that, if as they start to learn about this, and one of the big advantages of social media lately is that there is more truth leaking out. And I say leaking because nobody, in power wants this. But
that, by the way, is why they keep talking about Miss Kamala Chameleon. She keeps talking about censoring, like First Amendment. They just can't say whatever they want on Twitter.
Everybody's talking about that now. And in fact, as much as we like to think that X is a platform for free speech, it really isn't. And, Elon Musk has got an awful lot of connections to all of these people. He was part of that PayPal mafia that has turned into the digital panopticon, where he's a contractor for spy network satellites and, the information gathering piece of this. And he's training his AI with our posts on X. So there isn't, where are the good?
He's also trying to pump lithium. I think, is it South America where he's trying? I forget where he's trying to get us to go in and explore lithium for his car.
Yeah, batteries.
Yeah.
And that's just, you think about how much money and power is at play here, and how these people tend to be real psychopaths. Have you guys talked about nuclear war yet? I mean, nuclear war is kind of a problem, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And we are goading the biggest nuclear arsenal on the planet into fighting us. And it's one thing to go after little guys, like we can go blow up the Falkland Islands all we want, or whoever else we
Yemen.
figure.
We can go bomb Yemen every day because
anybody, and
all our presidents have done it since at least Obama. I think since Bush have done it.
There's always a nation in Africa that that we're trying to blow up. Always somebody in the Middle East. There's always somebody that Israel wants us to shoot. So I mean, we have plenty of people. If we want to be bad military industrial complex people, we have plenty of things we could do before we blow up the planet. And we're
the ones who flipped. Didn't we flip? Or I heard it was a CIA op flipping and putting Zelensky, who was a comedic actor, in charge back in 2014 in the Ukraine. We did that. I hear
we did that. We did that. And then we basically scotched the peace. There was a signed peace agreement twice. And we basically put the kibosh on all of that because we don't care how many Ukrainians are killed. We just want to protect our. I don't know if you guys have looked into all of this stuff that Mike Benz and others talk about with the oil and gas, and it's mostly concentrated in the Donbass and Crimea, and offshore. And the fact
we were guarding poppy fields, and they were guarding poppy fields in Iraq.
That's why we had to pay the Taliban to fight the Northern Alliance. We had to pay the Northern Alliance to fight the Taliban. We paid the Taliban to fight the Northern Alliance, and we created both of those when we funded and armed and trained the Mujahideen to fight the Russians.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
When I was at the Pentagon, I helped draft the second time. I helped draft the Measuring Stability and Security in Iraq report, the 9010. And at this one point, there were these things we were calling concerned local citizens. And I was admonished not to say we were bribing roving bands of insurgents and terrorists not to attack us. Because that's what we were doing. Don't attack us. Here's some money. Just leave me the hell alone.
Sometime I want to talk to you about your background. And that sounds like pretty fascinating stuff.
It's long and would involve beer and tequila, and it'll be hilarious. We could talk about it for hours if you want.
My background is really boring in comparison.
No, dude, you're a published author.
Well, I made my living with medical imaging devices, but that's that's kind of cool, but not it's not like secret spies and blowing up stuff and movie making things.
I typed. I didn't do anything cool. I swear to God, I typed. I just had a top secret clearance, and I was a data analyst. I was a data scientist, basically. So I typed a lot and made reports. I typed furiously.
So anyway, I mean, the bottom line is, given where we're at socially, culturally, with Social Security about to collapse, and when they're talking about reducing benefits and all that, they're really not being serious, because Social Security and Medicare are paid for by these bonds, by the treasuries, that if people start losing confidence in the USA,
only partially, part of Medicare is still paid for out of the stuff that they borrow currently. It's not all the way paid like it's supposed to be.
That's what I mean.
Our demographics are psychotic.
Right.
Well,
and
this
so,
is part of the Fed. The Fed does this because when they say weirdly, we owe this national debt to ourselves, they're kind of accurate about that because they're creating the bonds. We do owe it to the Fed, and then a lot of that interest that we're paying are the bonds that pay for Social Security and other obligations of the federal government. So we do owe it to ourselves. And that's they're just making up ledger entries. There's no money there. They're just not collecting nearly enough from the people who are paying into Social Security to pay for this, and that's where they start printing money.
Well, that's where they did this because it's kind of a trick. Instead of just printing money straight up and putting it into, issuance, they do this thing where they sell bonds and then they buy them back. And then when they buy them back is when they're actually printing up the dollars. And the people who get that newly issued money are the ones who get the advantage, the pre-inflation advantage, where they can buy up properties at lower prices and so on. And then inflation hits, and the rest of us have to pay for that. And so there's a trick to all of this, and a lot of economists have given names to all of these phenomenon. But the bottom line is that there's also an effect where if you acquire something like a global reserve currency, there is a tendency for you to want to charge interest on the use of that money. And so that makes even more inflationary pressure on the Fed issuing the currency. So, at some point, people lose trust in all of that. And given the fact that we've also been using monetary pressure against most of the planet, and they're now, look at how BRICS is all of a sudden growing very fast. There might be 80 nations in that, maybe not officially in it, but in that sort of sphere by the end of next year. And they're talking about de-dollarizing starting in October, and they're already setting up a system to replace our SWIFT exchange system with their own, where they're going to be using local currencies on this exchange and encouraging people to develop their own local economies and so on, which is kind of the opposite of what we've always done and try to centralize everything, with us being the financial hegemon. So the fact that we are just about we've tied the noose and put it around our neck, and economically speaking, we are like that close to losing everything.
No. We've already started down that path. I pulled out $1 and I showed somebody. I used to go, this silver dollar from 1922, I can't buy with this $20 bill. Now I look at that 1922 silver dollar, and 4 of those Bamas could buy $100 bill and to get change. Oh yeah, 4 ounces of silver is over $100 now.
Well, we had this sort of punctuated devolution where you could say in 1913 it started, 1971, 72 with the petrodollar system, and then especially with the end of the Bretton Woods system, we screwed up more. But even changing the Fed rules, the Fed used. I have a chapter about this in my book, Relating the Torch, and the Fed used to be relatively benign, and it wasn't really intended to do what it's doing right now. It's just during, the Great Depression, which was caused by the Fed, there were several rule changes which made it more and more malignant, so that, by the time World War II ended in the 1960s, a lot of things rolled around. That's when things really started getting seriously ugly and putting us on a path of self-destruction that, if it weren't for like what we've done with our sanctions on other nations, maybe we could have kept it going by inflating ourselves out of debt, and if we could have increased our production, but that's not what's happening. And this is unsustainable. And we've got we're kind of acting like horned rats when it comes to, finance and aggression globally, where we're not letting up on anybody. In fact, we're doing just the opposite, where it seems like, it's a kind of almost joking about the Malthusian transhumanist, running the world. And it seems like we are trying to depopulate the planet and, throw most of us into poverty and death, as fast as possible, because it's, if you're paying, if you're getting money from people's paychecks their whole life through, payroll tax, and you have to pay them once they retire, once they're on Social Security and Medicare.
They don't have to.
Well,
they
sure,
don't have to. I looked it up.
Sure, they don't have to. It's insurance.
Yeah, but I mean, I actually looked it up because somebody said paying into Social Security does not necessarily entitle you to receive it. And I looked it up, and those bastards, they were right. I'm sorry, pardon me for cussing. So how do we fix it, Ted, Andrew? How do we get it right? How do we make things, Socrates said, the secret to change is not focusing on, the old, but in what are we going to do to make it good?
Well, there's two issues, though. There's the issue of like people's retirement, and then there's the issue of the economy. There's two different issues. And with people's retirement, obviously we want people to be able to plan for their own retirements. Like younger people should be able to opt out of that Social Security system and make proper investments, and they do a lot better when they retire. But all the people that have paid in thinking they're going to get Social Security, it'd be kind of mean and unsustainable probably to throw them off. You just can't really do that. There was like promises made and all, and that would.
We dropped. I do the same. I don't know. I say if we can pay folks back, whatever you paid into Social Security, you just get it back and go live your life, and we cancel the whole system.
Well, look at what we're spending on instead. We're spending way more money.
Would not be the right thing to do. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Messes up the video. Anyway, so basically, so people need to be able to opt out of Social Security. But the other question is, where's the money going to come from to pay the remaining people? And that's where our economy is messed up because it's part of the unsustainable printing of money. We're running these massive deficits, which lead to massive national debt. So I think they're two separate issues, but they are, entwined.
Well, but you forgot the third issue is just demographics. We're unhealthy as a nation. There's too many of us not working, and there's way too many old folks because we're having 1.6 kids a couple now. So literally you got all these baby boomers and all these Gen Xers running out there who are thinking about retiring sooner or later. And there's not enough millennials, Gen Zers, Gen Alphas, whoever, to pay all those bills and to pay them all the stuff.
Well, we don't really have time to go into all of the causes of a lowered birth rate and illegal immigration and why we're proposing. There's all kinds of intertwined stuff. But at the bottom of it, at the bottom of every one of our biggest problems is corruption that is not going to go away until we get rid of the corrupting entities. And that is, unfortunately, the two-party system, which has always been unconstitutional. Our founders warned us against parties, but they doubly warned us against having only two. And, the fact that we have this corrupt system that can't be fixed from the inside. And trust me, I won a primary as a Republican in 2004. I met all the money people. I got to see, exactly what, I would be fighting if I won. That can't be fixed from the inside. And the only way any of this can be fixed is burn it down. Just like once again, Declaration of Independence, the most actionable, poignant, timely words are, that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by opposing the wrongs to which they are accustomed. But then he goes on to say it's our right and duty to throw off this kind of government when it becomes our biggest problem. And it has. It's clearly our biggest problem. And so really, we choose our future collectively. We choose the way we're going to live. We have, I didn't know we would actually use the cake and eat it or bed and sleep in it thing, but
I do the mean way because again, in order to get heard, you have to be sensational and you have to be on edge. And I say, it's the same thing I say to abused women. You deserve the treatment you tolerate. Tolerating is choosing. If somebody's whipping your butt and you don't stand up and either fight back or leave the situation, that's a choice.
Yep.
And choosing is tolerating. And, we're complicit because we're complacent, comfortable. And it's foul. It's disgusting. And shame on us for leaving this problem for our freaking children.
Well, let's just talk math for a minute. Like if you want to be really brutal, half of us are below average, right?
Yeah.
So what are the odds that a two-party system can work? 0. That it's really bad math to think that, we can expect 51% of us to get this right when it's so easy to manipulate, people by the usual techniques of lying and gaslighting. And
they don't even have that. The reason why I can't watch YouTube without seeing Kamala or freaking Donald Trump. Oh, if you can just send $2, $3, whatever you can send. Once you decide to give somebody money, then you've chosen a team.
Yeah.
And once you've chosen a team, you will fight others and push each other's down. So then you have the social influence as well as the monetary influence, as well as the media machine. We are being inundated with a message, an agenda.
Yeah.
And that agenda is our enslavement. And when you look up and say, no, stop that. I've been called a racist, a clown, a spoiler, useless, you can't win. And I'm looking at folks like, yo, we can't win if you keep voting that way.
Yeah.
It might be too late to fix. But if we go another 4 more years, I'm pretty sure it's going to be too late to fix.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you guys have already been called dreamers. You know, you can't win. You're just dreaming if you think any of this can happen. Utopian. But who are the real, you know, I guess I wouldn't call what they're doing dreaming. It's more like nightmare stuff because they know that it's corrupt. They know that they don't like what they're doing. You know, they claim that they don't trust politicians, but we've entrusted politicians with our children's minds and, you know, our and bodies in war, you know, and we think it's civilized that instead of ourselves having militias and, you know, old guys going off to war, that no, let's just send our kids, you know, let's let them do, and we'll, you know, lionize their deaths, and, you know, we'll be very tears and all of that kind of stuff.
We don't teach them to think. Even in elementary school, Maryland was number 4 in the nation. I'm not sure if we still are, but for public schools, we were number 4 in the nation. And our best schools, our 2 best counties, the reading rate on grade level was like 56 and 65%. And math was like 45 and 53% for reading and doing math on grade level. So half the people can't do math, and 3/4 can read. You know, a quarter can't read, or a little more than a quarter. It's disgusting, and it's immoral, and we're not teaching them to think.
That's right.
And that'll perpetuate the problems.
Well, you know what's really weird to me? I mean, I'm a constitutionalist, so maybe everything seems weird to me. But, you know, the fact that, you know, there's so much talk about the Second Amendment. People talk about, they study it, they think, you know, and they talk about all of the, you know, the court cases and all of that. But almost nobody, in fact, I've personally never heard anybody talk about what that's really all about. And I did a podcast on this on my Rumble channel, and it's on Facebook and other places. But until you read the old state constitutions, where they really talk about, you know, why we have the Second Amendment in the federal constitution, and we have it very strongly stated in the older state constitutions. It's not, you know, there's way more to the militia part than anybody's willing to talk about. And the fact that we've not had anything like that designed since before 1903, you know, the Dick Act, we have no concept of what society would actually be like if we had to take personal responsibility as voters for violence. If we were the ones who actually had to take up arms, we would not want to, you know, stop our businesses and our lives here at home to go fight people in other countries that we've never met. And so, you know, that there's so much more to freedom and, you know, the free society part of the Second Amendment that people, they never talk about. It's not guns. It's not about guns. And it's just such a shame that we've made it out to be that, because there's much more to it. And the fact that, you know, we've also inverted the whole point of constitutions where, well, the Constitution doesn't say you can't do this. Yes, it does. If it's not written in there plainly, then it does say you're not supposed to do that.
Left to the states or the individual. Was it Amendment 10?
That's number 10.
Exactly.
And number 9 is that we have all rights that are not specifically taken away. So we have expansive rights. And the government has very limited powers. And the fact that, you know, that judges surely don't judge like that. And we think of the, you know, the Constitution's enumeration of powers is just a starting point, when really that's it. That's supposed to be the limit of it. So, you know, it's when you're talking about basic education, you know, there's literature and literacy, and, you know, I wish everybody would read Dickens, because a lot of that's really funny stuff to me. But, you know, the important thing is we don't know the rules by which we are supposed to be living, and the rules by which our government is supposed to be restrained. And that is what's tearing us to bits right now, because we have allowed, you know, all powers for sale. And when you've got power that's just, you know, unlimited, and you've got varying degrees of people, you know, varying numbers of people who want to at least rent that power for various purposes, it's the more power, the more corruption. And we have incredible corruption, embarrassing, global, nasty corruption.
You said it when you saw behind the veil of the Republican machine, and you're like, holy cow, I can't touch this. You can't. It's
Nobody
all
can.
money. It is a popularity. We give power based on a money-powered popularity contest, and it attracts the pathological, And in order to be in office, you have to be rich or bought. I mean, the average Senate race is supposed to cost $30 million this year. That is, if you were an incumbent, that's like 14, 15 grand a day you have to raise for the entire 6 years in order to run for office.
Well, I'm sure you guys have raised.
guy.
You guys have raised 30 million, haven't you?
It's disgusting. I have raised the $200 I put in there myself because I refuse to fundraise. Like I said, data scientist, I did the math. If I work my ass off and raise 250 grand, I'm going to make 3 to 12%. Ron High at the high mark, you know, the average libertarian is the low mark. And if I raise nothing and just have the little L by my name, I'm going to do the same.
And that's where I disproved most of what people say about politics when I ran as a Republican, because I had actually before raised more money as a libertarian than I did as a Republican.
Really?
And I got 10 times as many votes. So, you know, the fact that there is no real connection between the money and winning unless it's a partisan connection. And really what you're buying into is the party structure and the party support and the foot soldiers who really do most of the work.
And the massive volunteer efforts you get and the on-call support structure. Yeah.
And I got to admit, you know, when I ran as a Republican, I loved that. In the Libertarian Party, we have lots of generals and very few soldiers. Everybody wants to volunteer to write your speeches. When I've never written my speeches. So, you know, nobody wants to just be like the foot. Well, that's not true. I should shut up before I get too much of that. But we don't have nearly the numbers that the Republicans had of people who, I don't care what you believe, you're a Republican, I'm going to, you know, follow you to my death. We don't have that. And that tribalism on one hand is stupid and destructive, but on the other hand, it sure was nice when it was, you know, you can see how people can get corrupted if they win with this kind of structure where people are obsequious and they're feeding you information that's wrong about how much you're loved. And you know, it's just like when, you know, the arrogance of some of these people, and yet they know that it's all corrupt. They know they're puppets. You have somebody like Schumer come out and say that, you know, oh no, you can't go against the deep state. They have 6 ways from Sunday to get you. And you know, they know that they have no power. They know who does have power, and it's not them. And yet, you know, we think that by electing new, you know, Democrats and new Republicans, which we also don't do because we basically just reelect incumbents all the time, you know, that 98% reelection rate for the U.S. House of Representatives last 3
Crazy.
And we don't even seem to care if they're ineffective and aren't doing a good job. Just keep doing what you're doing, guys. Burn it up, you know, ruin the country, take away our freedoms. This has gone really fast, guys. It is 12:59, and we are supposed to be done at 1. We'll give you a minute on the solo, so you can tell people where to find you. Tell them a little bit about your platform, and then, you know, we'll pass out. Get some last minute thoughts from Ted.
Sure. Well, it's easy to find me. I mean, I'm horningforsenate.com. I'm easy to find on Twitter and Facebook and other places. You can look up my book, Relighting the Torch, on Amazon. Basically, my platform is written down in my book. It's essentially the Constitution. And what that means is just wiping out an awful lot of stuff. The last chapter of Relighting the Torch, I do have specific proposals, but none of them amount to anything unless we, the people, vote away what we've already got. And so basically, my platform is simple. You can read it, you can understand it. It's laws that are few enough to know, simple enough to understand, and important enough that they're to be, you know, obeyed by everybody all the time without exception. It's just simple. So my platform is simple. Getting there requires voters to do their part. And, you know, bottom line, elections have never been about candidates or party. They've always been about voters. And voters have really all the accountability and responsibility. They've got to live with the results. And we really should start taking accountability for our choices. So that's it.
If you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got.
Dang it.
Exactly.
Ted, where can we find you, and how can we get you back on the show a couple more times before this election? Because we really need to, you know. Oh,
yes, I love being on, and you can reach my campaign. Well, go to the website, which is tedbrown.org. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. And yeah, but you can click on those from the website. That's probably the easiest way to go. And you know, I'm trying to run an active campaign, get the word out as much as possible. But again, I need help with that. And so share my posts, repost, all that good stuff, and let's see what we can do.
So, one final plug before we bounce. Rage Against the War Machine is the 28th. I'm trying to get a big photo of all the national candidates out there, all the Senate candidates, all the House candidates, and, you know, we'll even have seat fillers. So if you're a local candidate and you get to DC, we're going to be on the National Mall on the 28th, and it's, you know, at the monument, and it's Rage Against the War Machine. It is a libertarian anti-war protest. There is probably a better than even chance I will be strapped. So, and I thank you guys so much for coming on. I applaud you. I am in awe of you, and I am so proud of you for running for office, because it is a thankless, exhausting, emotionally draining job, and it's, you know, kind of the most fun I've had lately.
All right.
So
thanks a lot.
Yeah, hey, vote libertarian, and see you guys next Tuesday.
See ya.
Take care.
Bye.